Growing a business is hard, but it does not have to be. Once a week, we take a break from the hustle and bustle in business to talk about innovations and what's new in the C-suite. This is the Fractional C-Suite Retreat, and I'm Joseph Frost. Pull up a seat at the fire, grab a drink, smoke a cigar, and just join me as we relax, learn, and get inspired. This retreat is sponsored by your CMO, helping organizations grow with better marketing strategy. Welcome. I'm excited for today's guest. He's an avid fisherman and golfer, a soccer dad, or at least he plays that role, and carting his kids around to all sorts of sports. And he's been a SalesEx advisor for 8+ years and is currently the CEO of Sales Acceleration. I'm excited to have you here, Lee Brumbaugh. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Joe. And yes, there's plenty of soccer driving kids around to go around. I feel like I'm constantly to practice. So yes, that is true.
Well, good. Well, let's kick off. I'll talk a little bit about World Cup soccer here in a second. But first, what's one thing that you think that C-suite leaders should be thinking about today that maybe they're not?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the big thing that kind of stands apart, and I know it aligns to both our companies as well, but in today's world, you can be very intentional on when you have a specific need. I mean, 20 years ago, it was, outsourced IT was a new thing, right? And now it's, you really are efficient with how you have a specific need. And it's much more than that. If you've got HR, if you've got IT, so many C-suites and companies are looking at what is a specific need they have, and then who can not only fill it efficiently, but also can help you expedite that. So if you think about it from like a sales playbook, right? If you go to that sales manager or that VP of sales, they're doing a lot of different things. They're wearing a lot of different hats. So when you look at that specific need, really being able to find resources that can help you with that specific need and deliver, I think is a really tool, it needs to be in the toolkit of every owner and entrepreneur in the SMB space.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because it used to be you just hire kind of like a business consultant that would come in and try to do a little bit of everything for everybody, very generalist, but effective. And now it's much more discipline specific. You've got fractional, just about everything in the C-suite available to you. And it wasn't available before. It wasn't easy to find maybe before as it is today.
Yeah, and it's much more customized down to the business. I mean, even if you think about sales training, right? There's a lot of different great programs, but you've gone through those sales trainings and you'd have 5 to 6 different types of companies. And so that training was very generic. It was, closing that you could use against 7 different verticals, right? Nowadays, sales training can be really customized towards what the value proposition of that company is, where their targeted ICP is, their ideal customer profile. So again, everything that the needs of the customer and the client really can be catered down. That's enhancements of technology and how we find the resources. And again, can be very specific on the needs you have for that company.
And maybe step up a level and think about your needs as CEO of Sales Acceleration. What are the areas of your business that you're actually tapping into some of these resources in a similar way?
Yeah, so Joe, like yourself, the biggest area that we still as advisor community with 220 plus advisors is through our referral partners. So as a trusted advisor that's working with that business owner on the next phase of growth, there's a lot of things that come even outside of the bandwidth. So when it comes to marketing, working with partners, advisors in your CMO, when it comes to if there's an operational need, we're bringing in integrators. And a lot of times we like to look at, is the company running efficiently from an operating standpoint? So we've referred in EOS integrators. So our goal is to be a trusted resource. And obviously sales is a huge driver for what you can do to the revenue line. But if you're not operationally efficient, if you don't have the ability to have a great marketing engine that's driving top of the funnel, if your IT is lacking with what your sales team needs, all of that interweaves together. So it's important for us to be trusted advisors and bring in those resources as well.
So you were and still are an advisor at some level. How has that role changed since you became CEO also?
Well, I will. Let me start. So 8 years ago, when I started, and this is pre-COVID times, right? We forget about those days. I still remember I'd work with a company in the SMB space, and it's a $5 million company trying to get to 10 million. And what you would find is because I was there 1 day a week supporting, that they would be able to come to me and say, look, I'd greet the business owner first thing in the morning, and then I'd want to turn key. And really that'd be my day of the week. And what we found is that now in today's world, you can be so much more nimble. You can be so much more flexible around the pace for the customer that you're able to really deliver upon when it's important to them versus just one day and out. So it really has evolved to nowadays we work with multiple clients in multiple areas that are able to do that.
Yeah, it's very much on demand as opposed to like it's one day a week. It's when they need it, meeting them when they need it, kind of when they don't even know they need it. But
Yeah.
so your role at SalesEx as the CEO, what's that look like day to day?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the biggest thing that I do is supporting our 200 plus advisors on their growth, on their mission. So everything that we work on is focused on how do we make them more successful and efficient in their business. So I'm working on a new offering that we're excited about that we'll be rolling out in Q1 of next year. We've got our private equity team, which has a lot of positive traction. It used to be we would go to our advisors and we would work with portfolio companies, but at the PE level, we didn't have that streamlined voice that could help with who's the best advisor for that portco. So a lot of work there, a lot of work with on our recruiting side, on our lead generation team that we're building. So trying to build resources that can enhance our advisors being more efficient to the clients they serve.
And it's got to be a great experience for you. You're able to take that experience along with your sales advisor experience into a client now, and wear multiple hats when you're in there. But most of your advisors, I find, have had those vast backgrounds and depth of experiences outside of just sales. So really, anytime somebody taps into a fractional sales advisor or even a fractional CMO, they're getting more than just that marketing or that sales expertise. They're getting true leadership at that C level that complements the discipline they're being hired for. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's so many times it's not just what we do from the sales end, but we want our advisors to be a part of that leadership team. We want them involved in the L10s. We want them involved in their rock setting or their 90-day objectives. Yeah, so much of that is the company vision. And so when you look at what we're driving from a revenue standpoint, it obviously leads into operational areas, other areas of the business. And we want to be that person that comes alongside that CEO that really is that right-hand person that can be a confident, that can be an advisor, and someone that helps them grow their business at a totality.
So you look forward to 226 and maybe a little bit backwards for 2025. But what do you see the difference in the approach to business next year for your organization?
So a big thing that we're focused on is really an enhanced, again, let's talk a little bit about this, but from some of our enhanced offerings, so much of what we've done is an offering that will be more nimble to serve those clients that are kind of in that smaller but ability where they want to do the work. You may have that business owner that's kind of in a startup and they know that they want to be able to execute, but they need somebody to guide them. So we're looking at offering towards that, and also more of an executive offering that's still focused on sales, but on that coaching arena. So we're looking at offerings that will build it. The other thing that I'm really focused on, and Joe, I'm sure you appreciate this, so much of what we do at Sales Acceleration is serve. Like that is in our core values and it's in our DNA. So a lot of what we're looking at is how can we bring more value? So if you're a referral partner and you see that we're struggling with top of the funnel, we're struggling with the CRM, do we have the ability to have a workshop that allows us to bring in kind of this value-based arena and bring value to our clients that we serve? So again, trying to look at how we move into next year with that value-based mindset and meeting clients of where they have that need is the sole passion and dedication that our team has right now.
Yeah, I like where you're going with it. And I think you're probably seeing a lot of the same things we are from the marketplace, is that there still are many executives that want to do a lot of the work themselves, or teams that are lean that need to do a lot of work themselves. And maybe can't access at that full fractional level of VP of sales or even a fractional CMO, but could use a little less of it, a little lighter version of it, to be that guide and to be that mentor and to either help with coaching and mentoring individuals or just some value added guidance that's not a full engagement or traditionally a full engagement. We see that opportunity as well.
Yeah. And the other thing, Joe, is that we're really have a passion for, and I'm sure you guys are the same way. I'd love to hear what you guys are doing here in this vein, but obviously AI is the buzzword. We're not going to get through this podcast if it doesn't come up at some point, right? So
I was trying.
yeah. But the thing that we find is we can throw out all these different tools. And the problem is in that $10 million company, you've tried this tool and this tool. Now I've got a sales team that's logging into 5 different areas. They don't have customer support to the AI. They don't really know which tools they need. So we're not only trying to use great new innovative tools for lead generation, productivity, and coaching, but we're trying to put together, the ability for our advisors to serve from what tools do you really need? How do we identify those tools that need? And how do we package that in a way that is actually more comprehensive for you, enables you to actually use the tools versus sit on the shelf and get dusty. So we're really bullish on not just the AI tools that are out there, but how does a small to medium-sized company really use them in a way that impacts their business positively?
Yeah, and that's, I think, where having trusted leaders like SalesEx and CMOs and others in the fractional marketplace are really important, because if you've got the right trusted advisor on your side, then you can trust them to help you decipher what is the next AI tool I should use and what shouldn't I use and what's BS and what's real and what's right for this business. And without that trusted person, now that could be a full-time person that you trust, or it could be a fractional outsourced person you trust, but without it, you're usually getting sold to by lots of different people. And it's hard to trust people if their vested interest is in selling you the solution. But when your vested interest is in providing strategic leadership, it's a lot easier to trust. And then when you've got that trust, you can make better decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, the advantage your company has and we have with over 200 advisors. If our productivity partners aren't delivering, then we're going to find a new productivity partner. So we vet them, we carefully work with them. They're supporting us. You get that higher level of support when you're with a sales acceleration company, because we've got that level of trust with that productivity partner. So it's critically important. I mean, if we refer in a bad tool resource from a partner, it can really diminish of the value that we're bringing. So we have to deliver upon that. We take that very seriously.
Yeah. We made the decision last year that we wanted to make AI core competency. And what that meant was I felt we needed to bring it in-house. And so I found a fractional CTO, someone I could trust that was going to help me do it, because we're marketers and, that we're not the best people to set up our own AI shop. And then we hired a couple outsourced software engineers from the Philippines that had AI experience. And we started building our own AI department and looking inwardly, what could we work on that would help us learn how to use AI for ourselves. That was the first step. And then we also started doing education for both our existing team, CMOs and coordinators, as well as our referral partners. So we're on their 5th boot camp right now, 4-week boot camps, introducing AI differently to our CMOs and our referral partners around how you use AI to assist, which is what most people understand, ChatGPT, how to use it to automate, and how do you actually build agents with it that can get work done autonomously. And so we've built these boot camps, and now we're going to market with some AI products. We've developed a AI list building agent that is super slick. It ties into ZoomInfo, but so it doesn't, there's a cost to it similar to ZoomInfo, but it automates a lot of the manual work that people do behind the scenes with a tool like ZoomInfo. We built a content engine that allows you to record conversations like this with multiple people on a video podcast, and then capture that, transcribe it into a kind of thought leader article, as well as individual social media, LinkedIn posts, clips, and videos for each of the attendees. So we built that, and we're going to market with it. Now we're building some other custom tools for clients. Next year, we're excited about something that we're calling the marketing brain and brawn. So we want to build your marketing brain, which is all of your marketing information. And a lot of that is aligned with sales, so ICPs and tactics and things like that. But we want to build that brain that then is easily accessible by team members to learn from and to be the source of truth for future campaign work. And then the marketing brawn, we're going to tie that brain to the outreach, the digital activity that's going on. So you have real-time dashboards, you can make adjustments, and the CMOs will oversee getting that built. So that's our 2026 big thing we're working on.
Yeah, love that. And so much of what you're doing from like a lead list building and being able to understand your ICP and those types of things, that's what I think gets missed in AI. I get asked all the time is, AI replacing some of my salespeople so I can go from 6 salespeople to 4. And the reality of it is all these tools are enhancing, giving you the ability to understand your ICP, where your customer is in the customer journey, what's important to them and message that resonates with them. That's what we're trying to do, right? Is simplify, make sure we're more effective in the outreach. We're not replacing what the sales team does. They still have to be able to objection handle, be able to pre-qualify, do all those important things. But now they're doing it with the right customers that are wanting to buy and are looking for our services.
Yeah, and I think AI is changing our customers. They are buying differently now. They're more knowledgeable now than they ever have been. And you can't just use AI to automate and scale what you've done in the past and expect to be more successful. You actually have to use AI to be more intelligent and do things different. And that's where a lot of people are falling into the trap with AI. They're just buying these AI tools that let them automate the same thing they've always done, and that doesn't work.
I totally agree with that. Yep.
So, quick switching of gears. Are you going to make it to a World Cup game with any of your kids?
So we say soccer because the soccer dad. So my son likes soccer a little bit, but we are more on he's more about if A&M, my wife's an Aggie. So if A&M does play in the Sugar Bowl, which he's already shown me all these projections, and if it's A&M, and I rooted came from the Midwest, so I was a Notre Dame fan. So it's more about when do I line up the college football tickets versus the soccer. So we'll watch the soccer, but he's more into the football and basketball is what he has a passion for joining. And then my daughter gets into it too. So yeah.
Yeah, very good. So you've got your big summit coming up. What are some of the things you're looking for there?
So summit for us, a lot of kind of what we've talked about. You will have, the AI focus. So what we're doing differently there, and again, what we can provide advisors so that they are that resource and support and centralizing. Looking at the offerings, the value-based concepts we've talked about, and really for us, our advisors, it's the best way. And I'm sure you guys know this from when you bring in your advisor community together. It's really about learning from best practices. What's working in the field. What's best for delivery. So many advisors say, I just need to come to be able to meet my other advisors, share what's working and not working. So we want to give them the opportunity in the forum to learn from each other, to share best practices, to talk about best ways to network and build the brand. So we're very intentional that the time we dedicate around that as well. What about from your guys' perspective? What's important is when you look at bringing your teams together?
Yeah, I think for us, we had our first annual summit last year or this year. It was in March. And we've been around for 8 years. So for it to be the first, it's probably a little shameful to admit. It just took us that long to make it a priority. And we did it. And it was so meaningful to the attendees that got there to be able to finally meet people in person that they've never met before, that they've seen on Zoom meetings from time to time. And we also have a group of coordinators that support our CMOs that live in Mexico. So we had our event in Cancun. So then the CMOs got to see all these support team members that they work with every day on their clients in person. And so that relationship that gets built in person is so much different than what you get over Zoom. That to me is the most important thing. So then we have our next one coming up in February, not too long after yours. And the most important thing, again, to me, is just getting the people together in person to strengthen those relationships. Because then they leave, the rest of the year is a lot easier for everybody involved. It's just more productive. People are grateful for having a chance to meet in person and more likely to, be somewhat forgiving on some of the Zoom-related things that happen, or when you drop the ball, it's easy to, be harsh over email or over chat when you don't know someone in person. And it just breaks all those barriers down.
Yeah, no, I agree point. And we use a lot too we'll bring in our productivity partners as well and, be able to meet and make those connections. But you're right, the face-to-face side, the relationship building, it is critically important. And you're never going to eliminate that. Even though we love being efficient with with Zoom calls and Teams calls, it's still critically important to get face-to-face.
Yeah, and I was curious what your take is on this. We also make sure that happens with our clients. It's harder, but a few years back, we realized how important it was for our clients, and we start every engagement in person almost every time. Sometimes it's not possible. We don't meet every quarter with our clients, but we do have that first. We call it our foundation sessions. It's 2 days together where we build that 2-year strategy and the first 90-day plan. And we do that in person. And that is a big piece of what our DNA now because it's so important for clients' work to be done in person. I know you guys do a lot more client work geographically already, so that happens naturally. But what about your virtual clients? How often do you try to get those in-person
We're
meetings?
the same. I mean, we want to kick off with the client live if at all possible. We still have, a good amount of our business, and I can't give you the exact percentages with the entire community, but we still do a lot locally based. I mean, we still find better success if I'm in Houston, if I'm connecting with a Houston client, we still find that drives interaction. If it is virtual, though, we're the same way. We want to kick off if we can, be there live, because typically we're going through all the different scope areas, mapping that out, reprioritizing the timing, looking at the deliverables of who needs to be involved in that. Because when you're building, at the end of the day, and you're the same way, right? We're judged on the biggest thing that we do at Sales Acceleration is we do a survey at the start of all our engagements. We know the revenue that we're generating from where they start and they finish at year one. Last year, we were 32% revenue generation growth in the first year. So it's critically important that when we're looking at that and we're face to face that meeting and that we're saying, if you have the wrong team members in place, like we need to start there. Like I can do revenue forecasting for you. I can look at your CRM. I can play around with your sales process. But if you've got a team of 6 and 3 of them are the wrong seats, we need to fix that first. So it's important for us to be live on that and make sure we really prioritize the top areas that can impact the revenue. Because again, whether you're a $30 million company or a $3 million company, you don't typically have the ability to have big misses. And so we got to make sure we get that right.
Yeah, it's the outcomes that the prospects are looking for.
Yep.
To clearly communicate that 32% annual sales growth on average. That's a pretty powerful message. That
Yep.
has to help all of your advisors when they're going out there trying to get individual business as well.
Yeah, I mean, the two things that we do is do we deliver on the ROI and do we put up a repeatable process? Because so many times when you're the founder and you've built the business and you did the sales at the beginning and the onset, and now all of a sudden you've hired 5 people and the owner did 3 million in sales. Now you got 5 people and I'm only doing 4 million in sales and something's not connecting. If not only do we have to drive the ROI, but we've got to put in place a repeatable process so that when that owner starts to pull out of the business, looks for that exit, that multiplier doesn't go from an 8 to a 2 because they're 50% of the sales or 50% of the business. So putting in place that process, the two things we got to do is generate ROI and make sure there's a repeatable process from a sales delivery standpoint. If we do those two things, the rest is semantics, right? We solve for this. That's what we have to deliver from sales acceleration. And we're proud to do that. So
yeah, I think I envy you sometimes. When I say you, it's people in sales because it is a lot easier to generate clear ROI, objectively from just the revenue stage. When the marketing ROI is a little harder to decipher because a lot of things we're doing support sales, and it should show up in the revenue number because if it doesn't, then what's the purpose if it's not also showing up in revenue? But how much of that was sales driven versus marketing driven, and so we have all of that attribution we have to deal with, and what's the value of a lead versus the value of a closed deal, and how much of that can be impacted by the marketing versus sales. And it's a gray area for us, but it's the same. We have to deliver in a meaningful ROI to our clients. And then we are big about process also. We're a franchise organization, so everything we do is systemized, but our approach is building that system for our clients so that they have the systems and controls in place to run their marketing repeatedly in the future as well.
Yeah, and look, a big part of this, as you look at, especially from a marketing and sales, is people have to understand whether sales or marketing, there's going to be a lag. Unless you've got a really small sales cycle, you've got to go in and you've got to determine what is our sales cycle. All the pipeline stages go around to it. And if you're branding around that, you've got to brand, then you've got to bring in leads, and they've got to move to that phase of the cycle. And so if you are a business owner and you just want to react and think there's a silver bullet to fix it in 30 days, good luck. So you've got to invest in the strategy. Now, my company, your company, we need to have a good blueprint to do that and articulate that. But if that's in place, there's got to be some level of patience, and you've got to map that out. Here's what's going to happen from a branding standpoint. Then we start to see top of the funnel. Then we start to see more opportunities coming in. Then we see more deals won. And each step of that phase, there should be key milestones that you've mapped out, and that should be part of both our roadmaps.
Yeah, that's why I think we work well together. I mean, our two organizations, a lot of our CMOs work hand in hand with your advisors and bring each other into opportunities when the need's there. And it works well because we have that same kind of process mind that it's very cadence driven, it's scorecard driven, it's outcome driven, which is different. A lot of times when you work with marketers, you get a lot of creatives and it's about, pretty pictures and fancy words. And our CMOs are also much more revenue driven. The purpose of marketing, one of our core values is marketing drives sales. That's its purpose.
Yeah, and look, it's becoming the days of, we can read all the books on predictable revenue. And if we just put in 1,000 contacts and put it through an email campaign, we're going to get them out. And it doesn't work that anymore. You and I get 1 million emails that we don't read. What actually works is that we're out there looking and searching for things. So when we look for that, does it make, from a marketing standpoint, do we make that customer the hero? And we make that customer hero, then do we act promptly in a way that's customized to my needs? And am I building out a sales process? I mean, I work with so many reps and teams, and we get to the end, and it's like, I don't understand why this deal's not closing. I just need to send this one great email that's going to get them to close, or and it's like you build the sales process. The closing happens at the beginning. The closing happens when they articulate the pain that they're experiencing and the customer gains that they want to get out of it. And you map that along their journey. If you don't do that, then all you're doing is trying to close on a fictitious date. If they can solve for this and they articulate, if I don't solve for this, here's what happens to my company. If I do solve for this, here's the good that comes from this. And we map to what that date should be to close. There's never any surprises, any secrets on closing, but you've really got to get customers to understand and BD people to understand that has to be at the forefront of everything they do.
Yeah. And marketing can help a lot with that.
Yep.
When aligned with the sales team.
Absolutely. And it's great synergies when those come together. Absolutely. Because that's the reality. People look, you said it earlier, people are now looking. They are intelligent buyers out there. They're now using ChatGPT. They're using, and it's not just SEO driven. It's an experience of how they see something on social media that they like, they follow, they now get some interest, and then they come back to you when their level of interest is peaked. So it's important. That timing is very important. So you've always got to be branding around that.
Yeah. So I give a talk to fractionals, and it's called The 5 Distractions of a Fractional. I'd be curious what your take on each of these distractions is. So the first one is, I see too many fractionals looking for leads and not lead sources. What's your take on that?
Looking for leads and not lead sources.
Yeah.
And what would be your depth? So when you say lead source,
well, then I would expand it. I'll give you maybe the fuller definition. Too many fractionals come into the space thinking, oh, I'll just send out a bunch of LinkedIn messages, or I'll send out a lot of emails, or there's some sort of dripify or secret way to market my way to a client, when what they should be looking for is establishing relationships with other fractionals, other professionals, finding membership organizations that they can invest and serve their time so that those become lead sources. And it's that focus on lead sourcing that's more important than cold leads.
Yeah, look, totally agree. I'll cut through the noise. And the reality of it is that you can go out and buy the biggest lead list that you want and put together the prettiest, nice message campaign through ChatGPT and send that campaign of 2,500 people an email every day, and you're going to get garbage in, garbage out. So the reality of it is in our world, it's becoming more and more important of who you know, who you trust. So many times I'll work with an owner and they'll say, I'm not going to give my new rep any existing business. I'm not going to use any of my relationships. Those are my relationships or the teams. I need them to go hunt cold. And what you're doing is you're setting them up for failure. The reality is your business has existing customers that will evangelize what you're doing well for them. You as a business owner have existing customers that will evangelize what you have done well for them. Utilize that with the team, create a network, create synergy. So when we're doing outreach, the best thing to do is I'm going to go meet with somebody that's also a fractional. I need to look up Joe's connections. Who is Joe connection? If I go to you, Joe, and say, hey, who can you connect me to that would be able to help me grow with sales acceleration? Maybe you think about it, maybe you don't. If I come to you and say, I see that you're connected to these 5 people on LinkedIn, which of these 5 do you know pretty well? And are there a couple of them that you can make an introduction to? Because these are the 5 people that I think I can give a lot of value to. If we serve to the right people with value first, you're going to be much more meaningful and intentional in the results you see.
Yeah. we're on the same page. I've learned a lot about that concept from SalesEx. You guys have done a really nice job training your advisors into the value of serving, adding value first, and leveraging your personal and professional networks to drive opportunities and not going out cold. I've got a bunch of marketers that come in and they always have a marketing idea for finding the next client. I have to kind of retrain them, reprogram them a little bit and say, we can't market our way to a client. We sell our way to a client, but marketing helps. It's important. It's part of it. But you got to put your sales hat on to find new clients.
Yeah. And look, there's different ways to do it, right? You've got your own connections, you've got your network. And so the big thing you've said is anybody we're outreaching to, we bring value to. So if it's somebody in my network, it's how can I connect? How can I serve them and those types of things? If I am going cold, then it's about how do I drive insights that help you? How do I provide some level of education? I can't remember the contact he gave me, but he was talking about, this was probably 10 years ago. He was talking about LinkedIn, where LinkedIn was 10 years ago and where it is today. And people forget that LinkedIn was not set up so that I can get meetings out of it and drive business. It was set up as a way to digitally build relationships. So if you and I connect, and the first thing I do is say, hey, Ed, thanks for connecting with me. I now need a 30-minute meeting where I can go over something important to me, not to you. You've lost the audience. Now, there's a lot of ways that AI helps kind of cheat that. And so is it really meaningful? Is it driven? But most of the time we can see through the fluff and say, this is somebody that's truly trying to connect with me because there's something of value that we think and we can connect upon. And if that's the way you message and you look at from a lens, that's where you'll actually have some success.
Yeah. All right. So now you have a client. I think the second distraction is worrying about scope creep instead of monetizing the scope. And what I mean by that is a lot of times we get into these engagements and we want to over deliver. We want to provide as much value as we can. But then there's this kind of worry like, oh, but I don't want scope creep. I don't want the client asking too much and I start delivering too little or more than I expected. And there's all this worry that goes around. And what usually happens is there's usually some give and some take and it works itself out. But the opportunity that people have as fractionals is to stop worrying about it and look for opportunities to bring in your partners. So if that scope is creeping, that's a good thing. That means the client has more need. It doesn't mean you have to serve it for less or even for more. It means maybe you can bring in one of your productivity partners. Maybe you can bring in one of your referral partners. And then monetizing it can come in a couple ways. You can actually have some referral relationships or commissions, but you can also just have reciprocal value brought to you and someone else bring you into their engagement. So instead of worrying about scope creep, which many fractionals I know do, start thinking about how to monetize that. What's your take on that?
Yeah, no. And look, I think where you're going with this at the end of the day, and it goes back to what is your North Star? I heard a sales acceleration advisor that said, the only thing I care about my scorecard is that everybody I work with would refer me to their friends and family. So if I'm worried about scope creep of I've got to bring in a marketing arm and I've got to bring in somebody else that's going to help the company, and I'm worried about what that could do in my area and cut back, that's the wrong way to work at it. If your approach is, I'm just trying to identify the best way for this company to be more successful in a repeatable manner, then you're going to bring in whatever resource you have at the right time that matters to the business owner. That's what drives you. And a lot of times we think of scope creep because we'll get into it and they'll say, well, my sales team really needs training. And then you can also be in a distraction. At the very onset, we say, you're fixing the people in the right seats, your sales process, let's say your CRM, or focus in those areas. Now we don't want to get in and be the next shiny object. So it's important to keep them focused, keep the business owner and the business focused on the areas you agreed upon that you can grow, and then use all the resources around it that can help that growth happen.
Yep. You become that trusted source for all of the opportunity that the client needs. And that just tightens your relationship as that scope grew. You don't have to do the work, but they trust you to find someone who can. And that increases your value to that client as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. The third distraction, this one I get the most pushback from all fractionals, including my own, is that the distraction is selling yourself agnostically versus marketing yourself as a specialist. And I'll say this in a few different ways. So at the top of the funnel, I talk to a lot of business owners that are looking for a fractional marketing person. And 99% of the time they say, do you have somebody in my industry?
Yeah.
All the time. And
Yeah.
I say yes, and I fit them with somebody. Then during the sales process, that might be not be a perfect industry fit. Maybe it's kind of close, from a fit standpoint. But then you can educate the client that, specialization doesn't mean, it matters, maybe not as much as you think, because the fundamentals of strategy and leadership easily cross disciplines. And so you can sell yourself outside of that specialty, but you need to market yourself that to begin with in order to start attracting opportunities. The other thing I tell CMOs is that, specialists are remembered more so than generalists. So if you're just a fractional CMO, you're going to probably gloss over a lot of people in lots of rooms and lots of conversations. But if you're a fractional CMO that's got a specialization in accounting, you're going to always, someone says, do you know somebody that does marketing for accountants? Always pick up. But you're also going to pick up those other, a fractional CMO? Yeah, I've got somebody, I think he was in accounting. Like, you're still going to stick top of mind by having that specialty. And then the third thing is, when you have a specialization, you can charge a premium because people value specialization differently, even if you offer the services outside your specialty. So that's my take on specialization. What's your thoughts?
That's a really interesting topic. We could spend a show just on this topic in itself, to be honest. So when I went through and was advisor number 30 something, right? Our founders did a great job. And this was, again, 15, not me, 10 years ago when we were going through this, right? And our founders said, industry does not matter. So, salespeople are salespeople. They can get that. And along that path, I've evolved my journey. Sounds like you may have, of how I view this. So I do think there's something to be said for having an area of where you can. The reality is, I've been with clients that, I did an MSP client. I learned from that client. I've done other managed service IT providers. I know what ConnectWise is now. I know how it works. I know how important lead generation is. There is a next level of expertise that's come along with that journey that makes me more valued from that standpoint. So I think that there's a balance there. There's also something that we miss is some sales acceleration advisors. My background was really good at taking a $10 million company to a $50 million company. There's other advisors. I'm really good at taking a $200 million company to a $300 million company. There's different skill sets there too. The point is that when you look at kind of that specialization, whether it's the growth side, the vertical side, I do think it matters because it gives you the ability to have a leg up, to have a specialization there that helps you ramp quickly. Now, do I think it's the end all be all that I can't do if I've never worked for a heat tracing client? I've never done that before. I can't do it. No, because that company still needs sales process, those types of things. But it gives me an advantage, just like the vertical growth does, just like localization. I think the important thing for a business owner is that vertical matters. Look for expertise. You have that in back of mind, but it's not the end all be all. It's also the person. It's the results they've driven. It's how they match up with you culturally. We really encourage, the clients that we work with to interview. Make sure you sit down with that advisor. Make sure it's a right fit for your company. I think all of those things in combination help. And I don't think that was the case as much, 8 to 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic. We did the research and we found that specialists close at a higher rate and they earn at a higher rate than generalists.
Yeah,
so from a purely fractional standpoint, it is also important. But to a business owner, they need to understand that it's a piece of the decision, not the entire decision. And there's a lot of times where, you might have some with industry experience, but it's a bad cultural fit. And the leadership team needs a strong cultural fit more than they need a discipline industry fit, in my opinion.
That's well put. Yep.
Well, there's two other distractions. We won't go into them on this one, but this call, maybe we'll schedule.
You got to give me the two though, real quick.
Yeah, I'll give them to you. So, and I'll let you marinate on it. We talk about it at the meeting in Dallas. But the fourth distraction is focusing on maximizing income versus optimizing dollar per hour. And the idea there is too many times as fractionals, we start chasing money, start chasing income, and don't think about actually optimizing dollar per hour. And that could mean different things for different people. But for me, it means you can have, You can have a $10,000 a month engagement, or you can have a $2,000 a month engagement. They're both good. It depends on how many hours you're spending on them. If you're optimizing dollar per hour, that 2,000 might be better. You might have one meeting a month or one meeting a week, and that's the value of your advice for that client is worth that much versus spending a day or two a week inside of an organization for the 10. And they both are good answers. They're good solutions for people. But when we focus solely on one over the other, we lose out on that kind of opportunity. And the other piece of that, kind of the other like softer side of that is, we want work-life balance. We want the freedom and flexibility that comes as fractionals. And if it's all about maximizing income, you start losing some of those opportunities to go to your kids' football games and to go to your sports activities because you're just trying to hit that next dollar. And sometimes at this stage in our life, most fractionals are kind of at this age, that flexibility and that freedom and those non-work hours are more valuable maybe than that income that we were getting before. So having that, mindset, I think, is important. And then the fifth one is building a business around trading time for money versus figuring out how to invest in an exit one day. And that's the one that we're really focused on at Your CMO. We're trying to get our CMOs to build firms that can one day be transferred to a buyer. And it's a totally different concept inside the fractional space because you think of your time as the value. And if you think about how do you scale yourself, you can't. But how can you build a firm that can be sellable one day to a third party or maybe someone on your team? That takes a lot bigger commitment and investment. And I have so many fractionals and CMOs that come to me that say, I'm just tired of trading time for money. I wish there was a better way. And we're working on trying to solve that as well. Those are the other two.
Well, we need to sync up, especially in that fifth point, because I think we see a lot of value in that as well. And I think we've got some ideas and probably similar to where you're tracking with that too. So I think that's in Dallas, an area we should probably grab a beer over. So.
Okay, well, there you go. We've now baited our audience into a second podcast as well.
Well, you got to come on Sales Against the Odds, Joe. So that's you got to come on our podcast that we just kicked off. We're on episode 5 coming up, so you gotta join us on Sales Against the Odds.
I would love that. I would really enjoy it. That would be great. Well, I want to thank you for being on our show today. I very much appreciate it and been a great conversation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And thank you for our audience. Remember to download this, share with your friends. And if you do want to reach out to Lee and learn more about him or SalesEx, what's the best way for them to connect to you, Lee?
SalesAcceleration.com. We've got our corporate lead team. You just reach out and tell us how to need, and we'll have somebody calling you within the hour that can align you with myself or one of our advisors. You can also reach out to me. I'm on my email, lbrumbaugh@salesacceleration.com. So feel free to reach out to me directly as well.
And we'll have that contact information in the show notes. So, all right, everybody, thank you very much.
And that's a wrap. There's another successful episode of the Fractional C-Suite Retreat. See our show notes and more episodes at fractionalcsuiteretreat.com. This podcast is sponsored by Your CMO, helping organizations grow, save time and money with better marketing strategy and fractional execution. Visit them at yorcmo.com, yourcmo.com. Spelled wrong on purpose.